This is the Zero Downside Podcast, brought to you by moabtexas.com.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Zero Downside with, of course, my special, close, wonderful work buddies. And, well, we have a joke. We say work husband, work wife. Yeah. But, yeah, and Dr. McKenna, always.
Which I'm everyone's work wife.
Which, yeah, you are everyone's work one.
We're starting off strong this week. I like it.
But today we're just going to have like a roundtable discussion about kind of more tools we have in our tool belt other than just the stem cells, but what other, mechanisms or technologies that we use in the clinic that optimize a overall health and wellness for a patient. So we kind of want a patient to be able to present to us, hey, we have goals more than just getting over this large injury or this large autoimmune disorder, but just be a healthy, well-rounded human. And we want to kind of discuss how we would approach that and how we can every day. So
I think honestly, I think it comes down to the same thing we tell people all the time, right? Like when someone shows up and they ask, they're coming to us for cells for one area. It's almost always, and you know better than me, when patients will, especially the out-of-state and out-of-country patients, they send in the application, They go through the application process, they send all their films, Dr. Phillips interviews them, they tell us where their pain is and the quantity, we take a really good medical history, and then I review it and we see what treatment we have. Almost always when they finally get to us, it's, oh my gosh, like once they actually talk to us and come in the clinic, they're, well, my other hip and this knee, and I didn't know you guys did hair, and like I don't have any energy.
And this head injury as well, and this and that.
I haven't been right since my concussion.
I think every time too, a patient that comes in for a procedure actually leaves with another treatment booked, as in like an IV, or whether we're giving them eye drops, like there's always something we're following up with because they now have all these other issues. They're like, whoa, you can fix that too.
They didn't realize how integrated. And again, that's one of those other terms that we have.
Integrated health and wellness.
Wellness. God,
let's get as cliche.
We certainly have a love-hate relationship with a lot of terms, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't need to be an integrated approach to get people better. Of course, right? Like there's no one that has one little problem that if I throw a dart right in the middle and hit the bullseye, you're not done, right? There's still a whole game to be played, and life is long. And stress is bad, and cortisol, and everyone's metabolically broken. So we have so many, you guys tease me all the time, and I know you'll know the statement.
It's in love. You know that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I feel it.
Mostly.
I feel very much enabled when I'm around, especially Mike and Hannah. Mike and I have been literally friends in some form of orthopedics. He started out as a rep, so he was covering cases on a shoulder that I designed.
2007.
Yeah, so a bit ago,
yeah.
Right? And that's how we met. And he was told when he came into my room by the people that own the distributorship, don't ask any questions, stuff, just let him work. Like he's real specific about how he wants things done.
Oh yeah, I don't think I spoke for probably the first 3 or 4 weeks. I just kind of hung out because I was like, man, I don't want to blow this. Like I've heard this guy is he's intense, right? And
here's the thing, right? We're not baking bread back there.
No.
Like I tell people all the time, like it's not like I'm baking bread. If it doesn't turn out, you just throw out the loaf. Like we take care of friends and family. And and literally every patient we take care of, I treat like that and I want the bar raised to that point on every time that we have someone asleep or that's trusting us with their care, because it's someone's family, right? Even if it's not. And so I get that was my reputation. Nothing makes me happier. Because I know I'm a little bit of an acquired taste.
You mean is?
Yeah.
Still
yeah,
is,
sure.
but
yeah, still is.
I would prefer it that way anyways.
First, because I've taken care of your whole family, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I did surgery on way before you were old enough to even have a job.
Yeah, no.
I took care of I replaced your grandmother's knees. I did surgery on your grandfather's back. I've taken care of your father, your mom. So same with Mike, right? Like
both in-laws, wife, me.
Yeah,
I was involuntary. You made me get on the table.
I did because Mike was raising his shoulder like that forever, because it's really bad advertisement when one of your business manager has a shoulder tear that he won't let you do anything to because he doesn't want to take time off from the jiu-jitsu. to have it fixed. And so instead of taking time off from jiu-jitsu to have it fixed, I made him lay on a table, brought C-arm in, and stuck a bunch of graft in his shoulder, and he's done exceedingly well.
Yes, it has been absolutely game-changing for me.
Yeah.
So
I'm again, we do have the best toys. Like, we focus on that some, but it's not facetious when it's true. Like, I know a lot of what the pattern, the whole zero downside thing, right? Like, now when I go to say it, it starts to roll off, and now there's a part of me that's like a hiccup. It's like,
but then you say it, you're like, they're gonna tease me about this every time. There's zero downside.
Yeah, there's, and I'll say, well, there's very little downside compared to the potential benefit. I'll try to reword it all the time, but it's really true when you talk about the science behind making someone better. It is an integrated approach, and that's why we've added so many services, even since you came to work. And Mike and we've added services with our search of healthcare. I mean, I think of myself, I say it all the time, I'm a free agent on the patient's behalf, right? Like, I scoured the world, literally.
We will be your lab rats.
I'm looking for.
You are the prime lab rat. You've been there for a lot longer than we have.
Dr. Frankenstein, right? Like, I am not afraid of anecdotal evidence and good science. So there's nothing we do doesn't have good science. Like, the science behind physiology of healing. Oh my God, I just did the thing you guys tease me all about with the hair. Just so you know, they tease me all the time that people will get upset they're waiting or something, and I have no idea I did it, but I'll walk in, I'll be, and I always, hey, how are you doing? How are you doing?
Brush
and the girls
hair,
always tease me. They're like, oh, you just put your fingers through your hair, pull your glasses. I'm like, I do not do that.
Everything is fine. Now he's watching himself on the camera, and he's like, oh my gosh.
Maybe.
So let's go back here, because I think it's important for people to understand when we say we're the lab rats, when we say there's anecdotal evidence and things like
it's
that.
It's certainly not anecdotal. There's really good physiology and science behind everything
100%. But
like, this is how the body would react if you did this for it, and that's what we do. Right?
Yes, but I wanted to find science, right? Like, the ultimate science experiment is one day after surgery, we'd had a full day, beyond a full day, right? You always kind of overbook, everybody was done.
If we underbook, it turns into more because people find out you have other stuff. Right?
So again, it's access.
Hey, can we do
to
my other knee? Can we add my shoulder?
So we're at the end of a long surgery day, and I'm kind of finishing up at the clinic. I check the front desk. We've all been back in the procedure room all day, and I hear this noise from one of our aesthetics rooms, and the door's kind of cracked open, and I open the door, and there's Dr. McKenna laying almost upside down on one of our treatment beds, and we have
absolutely exactly reverse of the way we do it for everyone else.
And we have an M-Sculpt device, which we can go into detail shortly, but think of it as the ultimate ab crunch machine, right? Like, you're going to do Bruce Lee level ab crunches in a 30-minute session.
One treatment is the equivalent to 100 setups a day for a year.
There you are. Yeah. So it's not the most comfortable thing. You're literally coming off the table if you're the guy that likes to jack it, turn the volume to 11 kind of guy.
You go 0 to 100%. You try to get close to as 100% as you can. A lot of people, like, I can't, like, glutes, man, 50, 60%.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I told.
Glutes is hard because it's such a big contraction. I'm to the point now where 100% on abs, I can tolerate.
Well, I want to finish this picture because this is special, right? This is, and again, we're not teasing.
This is just an illustration of what's possible in our clinic.
But I want you to know a typical day at our clinic, you never know what you're going to get, right? We do wonderful things with patients, but when we treat ourselves, some of the experiments are a little odd.
And it's a group effort too.
It is.
Right? That room is full.
As much as my wife shouldn't listen to this.
I'm right above you with the phone because you're like, Hannah, video this. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
So then he sees me come in the room and he goes, you got to take pictures of this. Well, to complete the picture, there he is. He's got these two giant electrodes on his abs and he's getting lifted off the table because it's set to 100. Now, at the head of the table is Ashley, famous nurse Ashley, right? She's the cornerstone of the clinic.
Queen of the black and white.
She is black and white, as regulatory as they come.
Ashley.
Yes. So Ashley's eye rolls are famous, right? They can be heard throughout the clinic. So at Dr. McKenna's head is Ashley, and she's injecting his scalp to treat his hair because he's come up with a formulary that he thinks would be a benefit to the patient financially, right? He goes, hey, I think we can do this and it's less of an impact on the patient, which is the business guy. Yeah, okay.
And Mike's
great.
not always happy about me
Yeah.
finding ways to do just as good a job, less expensive, and with
Yeah,
less
that's
crap.
Mike's like,
great. That keeps me employed.
Let's say we did and not.
Yes. So here's Ashley with a needle on a moving target.
Yeah.
Right. And so she's literally following his head as he's having contractions on the bed and injecting his scalp and wiping him down, keeping the air clean.
Because again, I wanted to make sure we did it with no numbing cream. So we've never do this to a patient.
Yes.
Unless someone, but I wanted to, when people say something hurts, I want to know, does it hurt? Right.
You've also
So
got
I did
pretty
no
high
numbing cream,
pain
no
threshold.
local. We can't put local around the cells, kills everything. So we do a local numbing cream that you put on about 30 minutes to
Just
an hour.
topical.
It's just topical, and it makes it almost everything we do pretty tolerable,
Yes.
right? But no numbing. And Ashley's there and our new little formulary is we use peptide therapy, right? So there's a peptide called GHKCU that is a copper peptide that dramatically accelerates collagen vascular growth and hair health and follicular health. And then we're using a postnatal amnion graft that's way more metabolically active than most people's, certainly more than my PRP at 60. So we've been doing this with PRP for a really, really long time for hair and sexual wellness and all that. But obviously, if you're asleep, we use bone marrow because those are stem cells. But with amnion and not having to use $20,000 worth of tissue graft to get a result, there's a PRP version of that amniotic concentrated fluid that if you mix with this, not mix because we don't mix stuff because that would make a drug, but we inject it in the same area. So Ashley's there with syringes of GHKCU, this tissue graft, a digested collagen matrix tissue graft, a table full of syringes. I'm laying on the table getting M-Sculpt at the same time because we were trying to multitask. I wanted to get M-Sculpt. It's been like 8 weeks. I haven't done anything. And Ashley and Mike walks in and he's like, what is going? And I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
And I'm all excited. He's
Yeah.
like, doesn't that hurt? I'm like, it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
But I think using hurt is a big word, right? But I wouldn't do that as an elective, just, hey, I want to see if it hurts. I mean,
Yeah.
but to be fair, the first time I ever had my hair treated was because of a picture where I'm sitting on the couch and my kids taking a picture of TVs behind me. And I saw this big ball and I was like, I have girls. Like they should tell dad hey dad, you're getting a little,
No.
like I would have done.
Ashley told you.
So Ashley did.
Yeah.
So that was like 6 years ago. And I'm like,
Nurse
and so we were talking to a patient and they're asking about hair stuff. I go, oh, I did my hair a long time ago and it's been good ever since. And Ashley looks at me, she's like, no,
Gives that.
what is that? Like what?
Black and white. It's black and white Ashley.
Yeah, I was like, what does that look for? And
Yeah.
she's like, well, and I'm like, oh, you're doing like today. So she said that afternoon we're doing patients. And I said, today we're doing this to me, right? Like I'm not, don't you ever look at me and go, like if I'm getting thin, like I'm 60. Like I'm not a college athlete anymore. I at least have hair. Do not let me lose. Look, I'm never going to
That's
look
the last
young.
stand, right?
Hey man, I'm taking my last stand. This is the hill I've chosen to die on. I am
Yeah.
not going bald.
The sweet flow must
Do
remain.
not, like I want, like my mom would be so disappointed right now. I know I need a haircut and I keep doing this because of my hair. My mom would be like, sweetie, baby, darling, get your hair cut right. So anyway, but
Now it's a no-brainer, though.
Yeah,
Now that you
but
know the
now-
pain.
now
you're
we've
like,
done it.
Hey, while you're
Hey.
asleep, man, let me tell you.
Yeah. Hey.
Let's do this too.
we almost always, if someone's getting a little thin and they're like, can you do something about that? I'm like,
But here's the thing, right? So back to the circus that
Yeah.
was that room.
Yeah, Mike walks in the room.
6:15 in the evening on a Thursday, right?
Yeah.
I watched this and I would compare it to Elon Musk trying to test the safety of a Tesla vehicle by getting in the car and letting it hit a wall himself instead of using a crash test dummy. It's like, man, so what motivates you, right? What goes through your head where you're like, hey, let's pat our head and rub our stomach at the same time by doing an electrode stimulated ab crunch with a moving target that is the top of my skull while my nurse is faithfully injecting it at least 30 times.
I think that one of the coolest things about being on this journey has been that my goal is to add everything that we can think of that works, that makes someone better, that there's really good science behind it. And if I can add science and physiology and our understanding of that in better ways to augment it, we said a minute ago, this is not throwing a dart at a dartboard. You hit a bullseye and you stop. It's not a short game. Life is a long game. And our goal is to make people better, healthier, so that your body can, we don't want to treat a disease, and we don't want to just do just general aesthetic stuff to make people look pretty. We want to make people healthy. If you're healthy, you do look better. You feel better, right? And we have, our goal is always focused on that. But I want to know, does it hurt? What's the downside? How do I get costs down for people? Can I integrate some of these treatments together? What treatments go best with each other? That's how we got to the peptide part and the hormone part of what we do. The best stem cell in the world, if you're not hormonally and nutritionally sound, doesn't really do as well. So with peptide therapy, with M-Sculpt for muscle activation, with ablation therapy for painful joints, like, our goal is, I can't know what you need until I know what's wrong with you. And I think that's the reason we do some of the lab panels we do.
Yeah.
Because if the question is, what can you do for me? The question is, well, what's wrong with you, right? Like, what hurts? What bothers you? What do you need us to do to help you where you can get better?
So a fellowship trained trauma surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, their job is on paper to repair, right?
Acute intervention and to save someone's life.
Find the problem, fix the problem, put the things back together, right? So you've talked about the difference between repair and healing, and an integrated, more wholesome approach to medicine. A big buzzword I hear is longevity, right? I'm looking for anti-aging, which I think anti-aging is commercialized.
I don't know. I like longevity. Gosh, when you compare it to everything else.
But so the question is, in
There's
light
so many
of that,
terms I hate.
yes. So I'm trying not to use buzzwords and things like that, but I do like longevity. It makes sense, right? You've talked about anti-aging, is a sign of it is grip strength, right? Your ability to catch yourself if you're going to have a fall, right? The
Get up and
ability
down,
to
have a
fix
chair
this.
on yourself, right?
Yes.
Like, if you're not, that's how the muscle activation with the radio frequency stuff we do to give you muscle mass came about. If I make your knee not hurt, but you still can't get up and down on a chair because you don't have quad strength, are you independent anymore? No. If I send you to therapy forever to get quad back, can they screw up everything we did? Yeah. Now, am I a fan of therapy? Of course. But does therapy give you strength back? Over time. But we can set someone on a table, and in 4 30-minute treatments, what's published now is that 10 weeks after your 4th treatment, you have 30% more muscle mass and 20% less fat in whatever muscle group we treated with 4 treatments. So if you have a bad back, which I've had 5 back surgeries, and I'm never going to have abs again because I can't do an ab exercise without hurting my back. But if I can lay on a table, you guys put pads there, and I can tolerate 30 minutes of that once a week or twice a week for 2 weeks, I know 12 weeks from now I have 30% more muscle mass, 20% less fat in whatever muscle group. That's dramatic. And I didn't have to go to the gym. I laid on a table, and a machine helped my body get muscle by doing the right thing again. Again, the downside of that would be
0.
pretty abysmally low, right?
Thank you.
It did take 30 minutes of my time. I didn't have to dress for the gym. I didn't have to change clothes. I didn't have to shower before I went back to work. I pulled up my shirt. I put on some paper shorts. I put a pad on the place. They turned on the machine for 30 minutes, and I was on my phone and getting my hair injected.
So most people look at M-Sculpt, right, which is the device we use. Most people look at that.
I wasn't going to give them an individual shout out.
I agree. I
was calling radio frequency muscle contraction.
There you are. I won't mention the manufacturer.
But we do obviously try to make sure that of all the machines on the market, is that the best one right now to do what our goal is? I think so.
It's like Xerox, right? Everybody calls it a Xerox, a copy. It's this and that. So the device that we use to stimulate the abs, talk to me about the quads, right? What are the benefits? We know if you have surgery, like an ACL reconstruction, things like that, it's absolutely imperative to have some type of stimulation to help with therapy and rehab. Physical therapists use it. But give me those other things, right?
Well, think of the patient we just did.
I mean, even my granddad has gotten 4 of them now, just because he has neuropathy from diabetes and cancer as well.
4 back surgeries.
4 back surgeries too, done by.
One of them done by us.
Oh,
We did the 3rd one 20 years ago.
Okay. Well,
And then, since then he herniated disc above it.
yeah, roundabout answer. Yeah. He actually does notice a difference in the way he can get up, the less he can fall. It lasts for about a solid 6 months before he does just another 4 treatments, but it does change his overall just being able to take care of himself. He's like 78 now, 79.
Almost 80 years
80,
old. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to get 80-year-old muscle to do one and done. Mm-hmm. Like you get it strong and then it's not going to stay strong forever. Mm-hmm. But it lasts. It's like working out all the time. Mm-hmm. Right?
It's like him going to the physical therapy every day.
And you have to duke it out with physical therapy. It's 3 times a week.
You got to get clearance.
You got to dress. The average copay on therapy now, that's how we came up with some of we've worked with the company that makes this device a lot because they're very stringent on their price controls. Because the price of those pads, it's this giant electromagnetic. Yeah. It's only good for about 200 something treatments, and they're like $20,000 a piece, right? So, and the machine's $250,000. So when there is a significant cost of goods on some of that, but it's not the time of waiting 6 months of working out 3 times a week. It's 4 30-minute treatments, and at 12 weeks, what's published is, especially on abs, 30% more muscle mass, and 20% less fat. The best natural filler you have, God's natural filler is, and again, if you're not a Christian and don't believe in God, this is an incredibly intelligently designed device. And so we say God because I think, it's easier for me to say God did it because I'm a firm believer that God did it. But I think that when you're talking about abs, and I can give you 30% more muscle mass and 20% less fat in 4 30-minute treatments, and at 12 weeks, that's what's published. It makes it a pretty easy decision when you compare the cost of that to a $100 copay on 12 visits of physical therapy. Same cost.
Yeah.
And I had to take an hour out of my week, 3 times a week, dress, leave work, get insurance approval. The insurance company's paying thousands of dollars for that. But my copay, a lot of people's copay and deductibles, $100 a visit, right? And instead of 12 visits, I can do it in 4. And way more reliably than having to suffer in therapy. Because a lot of times with therapy, it's a couple visits forward, a couple visits back. You're going to get inflammatory.
So what other things would you suggest to build like muscle mass that we have under our tool belt, whether that be through an IV or through a peptide or through
For sure. And literally, we just left a lunch where I was on the phone with another physician that we've taken care of. And he saw some pictures of us and called us and said, dude, whatever you're doing, I want. And I think that muscle mass is incredibly important. And to get you not metabolically broken, I would never take fractionated growth hormone or indiscriminate use of growth hormone. It's just not safe. I've had some significant medical history, and it would just not be okay. But with the peptide therapy, ipamorelin, and CJC 1295, probably my favorite muscle blend for the evenings because it's like a growth hormone kind of activator for your GF1 levels. And so with IGF-1, you can have more muscle mass, maintain more lean volume, and still burn fat. So I think that there's a couple peptides like BPC 157, lower your overall inflammatory load. That's probably the only peptide I do in the morning. We're talking about, is there anything you can take in the morning to make you feel better? I think, 100%. Obviously my answer is B100. I think a 100 milligram multivitamin of just all B vitamins, everyone's B6 deficient. It's incredibly expensive to just take B6. So a B100 every morning is one of those. Most people on vitamins can't tell the difference in the way you feel, but we just know we're making a difference for you. But with B100, I can tell a dramatic difference if I miss it from an energy level. BPC 157 in the morning, it lowers my inflammatory load almost immediately, and I get through a day way better. Ipamorelin, CJC for muscle mass, right?
Yeah, let me back up just a hair because I don't want to miss this, right? On the ipamorelin and CJC 1295, if there's patients in the clinic, their goal is weight loss. In their mind, they come in, they just want to lose weight. Hey, I got to lose 35 pounds. I got to lose 50 pounds. Whatever the number is, it doesn't matter. The issue that you run into is, and I hate to use the coin term, but skinny fat.
I think it's a very valid term. By the way,
you drop a ton of
skinny
weight.
fat is valid because if you're skinny fat, you still don't feel great.
Right. But we're talking about weight loss to a patient. They're going to hear, well, we're going to help you build muscle. Well, that's weight. Muscle weighs something. I don't want to gain weight. So kind of help us understand the connection there.
You got to detach yourself from the scale.
Yeah.
Right. You need to attach yourself to how do you feel, how much strength do you have, how much longer are you going to live, and how do you look in front of a mirror. If it's really about how you look, the scale doesn't really matter that much. Like I'll tell you right now, I thought my goal was around 260. I lived most of my life at 260. I looked way better at 260 in my 20s than I look at 215 right now at 60 because I was 20, right? And once I got hurt and had a bunch of knee surgery, being over 300 pounds wasn't a great idea. Working out really hard to be about 300 pounds was good. So now it's about muscle mass and the way you feel and your strength. And I don't want to just look good in my clothes. Like I want to look good in a swimsuit, or I don't want to be afraid to look in the mirror. Like I've never really cared about that. But at 60, I care about how I feel and I care about having strength. Like I have a 10-year-old, I want to keep up with her. And I can't. But if someone's skinny fat, right? If we help you lose a bunch of weight, but you're weak, you don't feel good, your body, and the minute that you aren't paying attention anymore and you start adding back some food group that we know you shouldn't do, or your lack of activity, and you start or you get sick, or you have an injury, or you get hurt and have to have surgery, you add some weight back on and it's going to be directly deposited as fat. And so now you went on this big diet, you did great, but now 6 months later, your body fat percentage is higher than it was before you did drop the weight. That is never the goal. And so skinny fat is real because, again, the best filler is muscle.
Yeah.
And if I help you look better with a little bit of muscle mass, the skin shrinkage happens faster. You know, people, all the weight people are dropping with the program we put together with the biologics combined with peptide therapy. I mean, the weight loss has been obviously pretty phenomenal. Like I'm 5 pounds short of 100 pounds. My daughter is like 70 pounds. Mike is 50 pounds. Ashley was 40, right? Like the amount of metabolic brokenness that we've solved for people with peptide therapy is pretty dramatic. But more important is if you drop it and you're healthy, the skin shrinkage is way more fat. Like you don't look terrible naked, right? Like you don't want to look bad naked.
You don't look like loose skin on a skeleton.
I didn't work this hard. Like I don't want to I don't want to look like I need a sandwich. Like I don't want to be cachectic. But the GHKCU, your collagen health, ipamorelin, the MSculpt, the shrinkage. Now we have, well, on the aesthetic side with CO2 and Pixel, like microneedling RF, even if you do get a little lax, tighten it up.
So explain that to me. How does that work? I'm not an aesthetics guy, right? Like that's not my.
Well, obviously I haven't done a whole lot of aesthetics.
Well, I trust me. It's just I don't. I
plan on it. It's another one of those things I'm going to get to, right?
Yeah, you'll have to.
I watched it
That's
today.
a chair you're going to have to force me.
That was pretty. Yeah, my mom got it done. Ashley's doing her training. Yeah, it was.
But we have a new laser right now, so Ashley's getting training on the new CO2 and Pixel.
Yeah, it's the CO2 laser.
Yeah, let's talk about that, right? What is that for mine?
Do it pretty well.
She actually handled it pretty well. She's pretty dark skin tone. She's got, darker hair, so she can handle a lot of intense heat. And that's pretty much what it was. But the laser just intuitively knew to make the exact lines to fit either a square, a triangle, a hex. Like you can change the laser to different sizes that it will patch it. And it was just looked like a sticky patch over each spot you went over. But before it, she did RF microneedling and then the CO2. But it was, just cool blast the whole time on her face.
Yeah, yeah.
And
well, that's one of the coolest toys too, right? Like we have this
cool
little machine that literally just squirts really cold air on you. You just have it, and we let the patient hold it usually, so it makes it pretty tolerable.
She tolerated. Well, I mean, when she finally got up, she's like, "Okay, it's pretty hot. We got fire on the face." And
but there are people that come in and they're like burned.
Yeah. But it all makes sense to me though. Like when I was watching it and thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? Like you're burning it, you're tightening it, and to the point where she's like, don't smile too hard the next few days or else you'll crack your skin and start bleeding. And I'm like, I mean, that's pretty awesome though,
but
because if that just heals, you
Yeah.
don't crack it, you don't scar.
and
Like
with the
that's
cell
just
creams, right?
yeah.
So because we can use an amniotic tissue graft at the time of the microneedling and post, you don't get that same amount of scarring. Like even with microneedling, just with microneedling, people look like they've been beat up for about a week. If you do microneedling with cells, you look like you have a little rosacea the next day. Like 2 days later, you can go out.
Definitely not gonna lie, it's like an intense and sunburnt.
COT for sure.
Yeah.
But not with the microneedling.
All right, so for the ignorant aesthetics guy in the room, right? Again, I've never been accused of being pretty in my life. That's okay. I'm the voice, radio face guy, right? That's fine. I'll take that. I know this is video.
You're very handsome, Mike.
Oh, that's so kind.
No.
All right, so thank you for the compliment.
baby
But
face.
all jokes aside, for the guy like me that has no clue what microneedling is, I have no clue what the benefit of
Well, because
any
most
type
guys
of-
don't. I mean,
Yeah. So what's it
90%
for?
of the time that procedure is for women, but not because guys don't need it, but it's because guys usually have so much. Like with me, do I really care about some wrinkles and my skin quality if I'm 310 pounds? Like that's not on the to-do list, right? Now,
But you can use the CO2 laser on the rest of the body as
yeah.
well. So,
CO2 now do I want a little bit of but with just peptide therapy, the collagen shrinkage and with MSculpt, the muscle activation side of this, like it's not as disfiguring as it was during the process if you give it time for the body to kind of tighten everything back up and we keep you healthy. And GHKCU, tirzepatide, BPC 157, melanotan 2. Like when people say, what all is McKenna doing? Okay, look, we can write a script. Yeah, like at what point? Like what was my goal that week, right?
You
Like,
fixed different issues at a time, though. You
for
weren't
sure.
throwing darts.
We're
You were
steering
literally-
a cruise ship, right? Like it's a long voyage. I'm trying to take care of the problems. As one problem kind of goes away, it lets me focus a little bit more on some other parts. And we make the joke all the time, I can write you a script for 30 to 50 peptides that your body really needs. The stem cell secretes 7,000. There's 7,000 naturally occurring peptides in the human. So, but I can write you a script for some of those. So have I done IV cells every month? No, I don't spend that. Like there's a way to get tissue graft through an IV or for eye drops where we can use a really high potency tissue graft to help augment your body's immune response, right? That's probably the way you have to talk about it. And do I do that for me all the time? No. Have I done it as a crucial part of the beginning of this journey? Yes, I needed to fix me metabolically, right? There was some issues. Is that the only way to get to this point? No. Like I have a ton of different peptides we've injected, but none of them are dangerous. They're all things that my body can make, but doesn't do very well anymore. Insulin is just a peptide. Is insulin the most important peptide for me to take? No. Do I even need it? No, my body secreted too much. I was insensitive to insulin. So we make the argument all the time that while insulin may be the most important peptide ever driven down the pharmaceutical line, it's not important if you're not diabetic.
Yeah.
Right? I can make the argument pretty easy. There's 30 others that would be way more important for me to help you get under control depending on what your goals are, right? That's why patient history and your complaint and some lab makes such a difference. I can't just make you healthy unless I know kind of what's wrong, right?
So you kind of have to walk before you can run, right? So if somebody comes up and they say, "Hey, what's McKenna doing? How did he get there?" Or I had a former business partner call me last night, and he said, "Hey, whatever you're on, I want it." I had 4 calls that week, and it's just because the podcast is getting out there, and people see us on video, and I just look very different this year, and you look remarkably different. But what worked for me, what worked for you, it's not going to be the same. It's not a template.
Oh, for sure not.
So how do you address that with a patient, right? A patient comes into your clinic and like you said, they've had a sore hip for 4 years and they're just dealing with it. And then all of a sudden they look at you and they're like, "Hey, wait, what changed?" Right? Not just the sweet hair, but like what else has changed? The sweet flow.
And mad shoe game. Right?
So as part of the diagnosis, and just to kind of sum it up, where are we at? How do you start with a patient to address health and wellness, longevity, the anti-aging? What is a good start point for your average patient? Are you looking at weight? Are you looking at pain levels, tolerance?
I think the first thing is you got to make it where people can be active without pain,
Okay.
right? So if you can't sleep, you're hurting at night, you have pain that's waking you up, Looking pretty doesn't matter if if you're taking narcotics, you can't do the things you want to do anymore. You're in a rampant level of inflammation from chronic pain and discomfort with a degenerative joint disease or chronic patient we saw last week. It already had tendon reconstruction around his ankle, and then they put him in a cast for 2 months. He had dramatic atrophy. He can't move his ankle. And the tendon's still not healed, right? They sewed it together, but we say all the time, you can sew it together, but you can't make it heal. And so we injected.
I like how we like kind of take this. I see, well, not really we, but you take the situation of, or a case of a patient.
You're allowed to say we.
Okay.
Whoa.
We look at the case of a patient, and I think you kind of, help the body reprioritize. Like you've always talked about how it's just not on the priority
Not on
list.
your body's to-do list, right?
It's got other bigger fish to fry.
And so I think our goal is to, how do we take the bigger fish to fry off the skillet, right?
Yes.
And if I can make you pain-free,
Yes.
and I have the best way in the world of helping your body grow cartilage, lower the inflammatory change around tendon, remodel the tendon so you're just not walking around with painful scar. Once we get that fixed, that you need the orthopedic surgeon for me. You need the cellular volume we use. You may need bone marrow. We have the way for me to try to take care of your painful joint. But until we get you where you're not taking narcotics and you feel like you can get some rest, but once you get there, that's what happens. People get like, oh my gosh, I can walk without pain. I'm getting up and down out of a chair. What can we do to get me back? That's where and a lot of it is as easy as, and we don't even talk about this enough, and we're going to get in trouble by bringing it up, but I think it's crucial to what we do, and it's the easiest thing we have in the clinic, is nutritional IV therapy. Like I'm still amazed at the pushback we get from Western medicine or traditional doctors on just high dose vitamin C, like high dose absorbate, Myers cocktail, glutathione. Right? Like glutathione, one of the second peptides that insulin first, glutathione second. But your glutathione is crucially important. It's the best antioxidant part of the human body, is this interaction between oxidative and antioxidative with vitamin C and glutathione. Your glutathione starts going down at around 21 years old. That's why it's so much easier to heal and repair and be out of inflammatory in your 20s. And in your 60s, good luck.
Yeah, you feel it
Right.
if you had a late night drinking in your 60s versus much younger
But
in age. And a lot
for
of
sure,
that's that inflammatory
we put a big
response.
IV in you. We give you some big, and there's one lab you need to do to make high dose vitamin C. But most people that do IV therapy, and we've compared it because Hannah she'll be out checking pricing, and she's like, oh my God, how are these people doing IV for this? I'm like, look at what's in it. I said,
It's
I promise you, it's like 10 grams of absorbate, right? Because the price of IV vitamin C has gone up because the FDA really started going after anyone that would make a compounded version of absorbate. And everyone is a low grade state of sorbutism, which means you're like a low grade state of scurvy as an adult, because no one gets it. We're one of the only mammals that can't synthesize your own absorbate in your liver. Sheep, goats, horses, they don't get scurvy coming across the Atlantic. Humans do. Like they don't feed sheep limes and lemons. They did it for humans because our liver probably developed some more important tasks with the invention of alcohol and fermented beverages. Our alcohol had to take a little detour. We probably don't. Do I think that originally humans probably could synthesize your own absorbate? No. Do I think that we do now? No. So I think that with high dose absorbate, it's important. We will give someone 25, 50, 100 grams of absorbate. If you have one peptide, one enzyme that's a G6PD, means you can metabolize it. You won't hemolysize. So the pathway to wellness just with that is really dramatic. And that's the most inexpensive thing we have in our armamentarium to take care of someone, right? But it's a pretty important place to start. Like, do you want to take really expensive stem cells and pour them on the concrete? No. If I get you metabolically active, I need to make you not concrete. I need to make you where you have some flexibility, pliability, and then I have all these cool things to help you with. But I think nutritional IV therapy is one of the most important things we do for people, and the thing we never talk about. It's an oh, by the way, and people will be, I didn't know you guys do IV vitamin C. Like, but we do a blended mix of everything I can do for someone. And Myers cocktail, the muscle blend. There's a lot of cool toys.
So to simplify it, let's get you not hurting anymore, right? Let's get you rested, recovered. Let's get you well. Let's triage you
and
first.
Then let's get the car. Let's take the dents out of the car, get the tires back on, and then we'll worry about the fact that it shakes and pulls to the left a little bit when you're driving fast, right?
Yeah. So it's a comprehensive approach, right? It's not something that's going to be acutely just triage. This is it. This is the diagnoses. This is your pill.
I think sometimes we still tend to do that because I'm still a surgeon. I think that there's still a time I kind of think of a lot of stuff. What we do is one and done. Patients have driven it to this way because patients will start feeling better and they'll come in and say,
"What's next?"
Hey, you're right. My knee doesn't hurt anymore.
Thank you. Next.
Next. I want more. Like now, how did you get your hair like that? Yeah. Like Dr. McKenna, how did you lose that weight? Like, oh my God, how are you getting,
Dr. McKenna?
How are you getting your muscle mass back? Right.
Yeah.
Like I haven't had like all through all the COVID nonsense. High dose vitamin C is published all over the world except for the States, is making a big difference. There was one study done in New York that said it didn't help because they gave people 5 grams to an IV. You can take 5 grams orally. Everyone can tolerate it. Almost everyone can take 5 to 7 grams a day of absorbate, and it might give you a little diarrhea, but there's no really other complication. Why would I give you 5 grams IV when you could have just chewed a pill? Like, stupidest thing ever. But they tilted the study against it. Most places in the world, someone has a viral illness. If you give them big high doses of absorbate and some B vitamins, they recover way faster. Flu. There's literally one of the IVs called cold and flu, right?
Because we could run a whole episode on just
for sure. Because if you have a flu or any other viral illness, if we can metabolically get you out of that by treating your body's inability to get rid of that viral component and shed that. If we augment that with big high doses of antioxidants, you do way better, way faster. And look, Airborne they can make a claim. So there's a little pill and all it has in it is vitamin C and zinc, a couple other things. But the way they got it is because a little bit of zinc and IV and vitamin C, they claim they can put on the bottle now as a cure for the cold. So when people say, oh, we can't even cure the common cold. Yeah, we can.
The original
it's already on the market. It's on the supermarket shelf and it's called Airborne. And they got the indication they can actually make the claim they cure cold. It's just vitamin C and zinc. Do we have vitamin C and zinc in the IVs we give? Yeah. Do we say it cures a cold? No. Do we say we're helping you feel better and treating your immune system and helping your body shed the virus faster? Of course, because that's what it does. But if someone says there's no cure for the common cold, Airborne says they have the cure for the common cold and the FDA agreed with it. Yeah. It's just vitamin C and zinc. It's way not at the doses I can give you IV and turn you around as fast.
I think with us coming up on cold and flu season, I'd actually like to reach out. Anybody that's watching, make comments on our videos when you see them online. It helps the algorithm. It helps everything on YouTube. Don't just like and subscribe. Make comments. But one thing I would
like and subscribe.
Absolutely. Please, right? We want to keep bringing this content out. We feel that it's a benefit to the patients, old and new. But one thing I do want to put out there is I really feel it's important for us to talk about a reset of the body, right? The immune system, everything else in a future episode. If you've got questions for Dr. McKenna, if you've got questions for myself or Hannah, please direct them all to Dr. McKenna. He's the expert in the room.
But then I will show up, do the cool part, and defer it all to Mike and Hannah.
That's it. Yeah. So look, I pick up the light work, as does Hannah. But the thing is, make comments, ask questions. We want to talk about regenerative health, just being immune during cold and flu season, everything else going wrong, new strains floating around in the world that we won't get into today. All those things. Yes. But so listen, COVID, there's a lot out there we want to bring. We're interested in hearing from you, our viewers. So if there's any kind of content or anything that you have questions on, we'd love to provide that information for you. So I think we've kind of hit the end of our time. And so famously, I'm going to look over to Hannah on my right and have her close us earlier than we'd love to, because there's a lot to discuss.
All right. Until next time, guys, signing off.
And again, I want to tell everyone, thank you for your trust. We really appreciate your confidence and trust in being able to participate in your healthcare. And that's as genuine a statement as we can make.